Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. This one should be relatively short because there's not too much that happened this week. Some small things here and there that are notable, but more or less just another soft week in terms of news. But we have some news, and we're just going to get right into it. So let's dive on in. So the very first thing that we're going to discuss is revolving around Target, the massive, North American retailer. I'm not sure if they do outside of North America, if Target exists in foreign markets. I don't know. Someone let me know. But the reason why we're addressing Target is because they're looking to limit their sales on, or at least offering a smaller selection of physical media, and basically moving towards the elimination of it entirely from their store. And this is not the first time where physical media is starting to become absent in areas. Netflix and Best Buy kind of being a start of this whole chain of events. And it appears so that Target is following suit. And this will, with Target doing this, will, fall in line with other retailers. Walmart will probably do this at some point. So yeah, I mean, we've discussed this before when it came to Best Buy doing this. It's the way of the future. I mean, as much as physical media was a vital piece of cinematic consumption back then, because streaming didn't exist, in the early 2000s or the 90s, that DVDs and Blu-rays were a necessity if you were not able to get to the theater, um, so I understand, how much it has meant, and for some people, who are like hardcore film fans, they do like the physical media, but it appears so that period is dying down and will be dead ultimately in a pretty soon. And the reason for it is just simply this: it just doesn't have a place in this digital age or this digital footprint. So, as much as some may not see it or deny it, the streaming is going to be the future for consumption, whether you like it or not. The days of renting movies and going out to your rental stores or your big retailers, it's pretty much dead. No one does that anymore. I don't. I just go on Netflix. I do the streaming stuff. I go to Netflix, go to Hulu, I go to HBO Max. That's just how it is now. So I do miss that discovery of film when you go to a store. Like, I have some memories of going to Blockbuster when I was young, primarily for video games. Oddly enough, because I'm not a gamer, but I went for games. I don't know why. And there was a mom and pop shop. I forget what it was called, but it was like based by my dad's place. It's now an AutoZone, but I mean, if you are desiring for that, if you have that itch that needs to be scratched, you can go to Redbox. I know it sounds pathetic, but you have Redbox. So, I mean, if you're desiring for that experience, somehow check for your local grocery stores or your gas stations and find a Redbox and try that. So, but the age of physical media is reaching its end, and it's the end of an era, really, and very much an illustration of the times of changing when it comes to overall film consumption. So yeah, so very, very interesting, but it was inevitable. So, all right, next topic, we're going to dip more into Megaoplois, which we've discussed a few times on the news roundups, mainly because of something that was brought up in a Vanity Fair article, because Francis Ford Coppola, who is the director of it, he went into great detail about getting Megaoplois off the ground, specifically in the early 2000s, and earlier than that, the long, long time that has been dedicated to getting Megaoplois made. And I want to talk about specifically the early 2000s when his second unit was filming at that time in Brooklyn. He details how they were just picking up shots here and there, and the reason for it was because he wanted to save on money, saving on a budget. So he just wanted to utilize a second unit in a certain respect without having to go out of his way to like pay certain expenses. So he was just trying to avoid expenses, essentially. And during this time when they were filming, getting basically shots of the city, daily life, what have you, that was when the tragedy of 9/11 had happened, and they actually have footage from this event. And according to the Vanity Fair article, Francis Ford Coppola plans to use this footage in the film to illustrate a point on destruction. And the reason why I bring it up is because I understand why this footage might be allowed, because of it potentially just being played in the foreign market. As we said in the last video, he was able to gain distribution in France, and it appears that it's just going to only be in France, or at least within that foreign market. So I can see where that might be allowed. That being said, though, to say that a film that has a $120 million budget that is self-financed by the person directing it, to say that they cannot craft out a visual example to illustrate their point on destruction, and to say that this is the only way to make that point possible, is just complete and utter nonsense. Because there is absolutely no reason to release that footage. Absolutely none. And even worse, to manipulate it under cinematic language. Just to use that footage for a point of the film, and not just to use the footage on its own about, talking about 9/11 or anything like that would be probably more appropriate. It's just gross. It's just gross. And hey, like I said, it's only playing in France right now, or it will potentially only play in France. So he'll probably get away with it, but it doesn't make it any more sensible, though. Because, here's more of a personal question regarding to that footage. Why has anyone thought of seeing that event take place 9/11? Why has anyone's thought of seeing that happen is to pull out their phone, or in this case their cameras, and start recording it? That tells me a lot about you and your real lack of care of things. So I would say absolutely do not release that footage. That would be just gross and completely inappropriate if you asked me. But it's going to play in France, so probably they'll allow it because the French just could care less. So, but doesn't make it right, and I really detest the idea of releasing that footage or using it in any respect for this film, or in any respect for any film, to be frank. So yeah, not cool. Not cool. Not cool that they're planning on using it, but not cool that they even recorded the damn thing. That's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, but moving on from that, to talk about something a little bit more not as dark as that topic. Let's talk about Masters of the Universe. Masters of the Universe, as you guys know, if any of you guys are Masters of the Universe fans or just know anything about this particular project, there has been a live-action adaptation of Masters of the Universe that's been long in development, basically now in development hell, and it appears as though that there has been a date now put for the live-action film, that being June 5th, 2026, and this is going to be distributed by Amazon Studios this time. Now, the film will be directed this time by Travis Knight, who's the person who gave us Bumblebee, as well as Kubo and the Two Strings, so a very solid, capable director. Initially, it was going to be directed by the Nee brothers back in 2022, which are the directors that gave us The Lost City. And all the way back to 2009, it was going to be directed by John M. Chu, who later on would direct films such as Crazy Rich Asians, In the Heights, but more notably G.I. Joe Retaliation, which is another Mattel property, because Masters of the Universe falls into the Mattel umbrella. And initially, before Amazon got a hold of it, Netflix got a hold of it, and then because this thing has been through like multiple studios. At one point, it was at Warner Brothers. At another point, it was at Sony, and then Sony dropped the project. And at that time, they had already casted He-Man. It was Noah Centineo, who was going to be cast as He-Man. Then he dropped the project, and then Kyle Allen came on as He-Man. This was when it was still at Sony, and Sony just completely dropped the project altogether, and then shipped the thing off to Netflix. Now, Netflix was developing the film for a little bit, and they decided to drop the project too, after spending, mind you, $30 million on the film. So that's not just they were conceiving or pitching ideas; they actually were spending money on this. So it's quite interesting how they just drop all that money and just say, we don't want to work on this anymore. But now it's going over to Amazon Studios. So that's where the new home is at. And with the success of Barbie, it seems that Mattel Films is more confident in trying to get this made, and just studio-wise, they seem more comfortable with taking this on and now dating it. So, but like I said, this project goes way back. This goes back to like 2007. So this has been a long, long time trying to get this made. Like I said, studios taking it and dropping it, casting and not casting. It's just fallen apart so many times. So my thought on this is, firstly, I just don't really care, to be frank. I just find the history of the film interesting. I don't really care for the actual film. But as the saying goes, I'll believe it when I see it. Like I said, this has been thrown around all over Hollywood, basically, down to Warner Brothers, down to Sony, down to Netflix, now to Amazon. So it's just one of those projects or one of those productions that either will come out horrendous, like the original live-action film was. That thing was just hideous. Or it'll be fairly mediocre, speaking quality-wise. It might just come out just okay, but who knows? But all I'll say is that I'll believe it when I see it. But I feel confident, though, in saying that this attempt, I believe, will come true. I believe that this is the one that will stick. It won't be shipped off to another studio. I think that at this point, because of what Barbie has done, I think that this studio will be more comfortable with taking on this project. And I'm going to call it right now. I have a prediction who is going to be He-Man. It literally came to mind last night when I read the story about Masters Universe getting a release. It came to mind, and I'm pretty confident with it. I'm pretty sure that Glenn Powell, he's a new face in Hollywood. He was in the Top Gun thing, Top Gun Maverick, as well as Twisters coming out this summer. He was in something else too. Anyone But You, right? It's that rom-com that somehow was caught fire. I believe he'll be He-Man. I believe so. Young face, popular right now, attractive, pretty much meets all the checkpoints. So, and I don't know anything about the actor. All I know is about Top Gun. All I know is those films that I've mentioned. But I don't care one bit for the guy. I never even considered the guy at all. Never came to mind. Nothing. It's just, it literally just in thinking of He-Man, that face just came to me. So I don't know why, but I feel like he'll be He-Man. That's my guess. But who knows? But who knows if this thing will even come out? But I feel like now it will, but we shall see. So. All right, so the next topic that we're going to discuss is revolving around Maze Runner. Now, Maze Runner, as you guys know, last film, I believe, came out in 2018. Was it The Deaf Cure? Yeah, The Deaf Cure. And directed by Wes Ball, who now is taking up the reins of the Planet of the Apes series with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It appears as though that a reboot is in the works, or at least some sort of soft reboot. It's not a complete reboot. It's basically the same sort of idea that they're doing for the new Planet of the Apes film, which is essentially just to have the three films exist, but not really acknowledge them as much as just use them as background material, essentially. Wes Ball is involved as a producer. Jack Paglin, who wrote Transcendence, which I heard is not too good, he is in talks to write the new one, and 20th Century Drift Studios is back to helmet or to finance it. Um, my, I only have really one question: who who is asking for another Maze Runner? I mean, I don't even think the last Maze Runner did too well, if I remember correctly. It's like I don't know if there's any other books or whatever, but like just I don't know who's asking for, let alone a reboot of the series. I mean, the series is not, as you saw, 2018. It's just 5 years old. It's still fairly recent, so it's a little odd for them to be wanting to reboot it. But again, Hollywood, I guess, is just out of ideas. But we're getting a Maze Runner reboot for some reason. I've only seen the first one. I have very vague memories of it, and the other two I never saw, so I don't know. But yeah, the first film I don't remember much of, don't care for. The other two films never saw and don't care for. So I don't really care for this at all. But it's just strange to hear that they're even wanting to reboot it, as if it's a series that is in desperate need of rebooting or needing of any more material. It's just strange decisions. But hey, that's Hollywood for you. So. Next topic we're going to discuss is revolving around The Exorcist. Now, The Exorcist came back with The Exorcist Believer, which I heard was not good. Based on the trailer, it really did not look good. And it was the start of a trilogy, and that was directed by David Gordon Green, who had helmed the Halloween series with the 2018 film, to then Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. He directed Exorcist Believer, which did not do good at all. And he, since then, had exited from the franchise. As it being a trilogy, they've already signed off on the next one, being called The Exorcist Deceiver, which was supposed to come out on April 18th, 2025, but since then has been was pushed off that release date. There's no, as far as I can tell, let me just look real quick. Yeah, I don't think that there's any new release date for the film. So it's just been just basically just shelved or just pushed away for now. But it appears as though that it might be getting off the ground again, the next film, The Exorcist Deceiver, because Mike Flanagan, who is a very well-known horror director, done films such as Doctor Sleep most recently, notable series from Netflix, Haunting of Hill House, he is in talks to direct the next Exorcist film, which that sounds very interesting. I like Mike Flanagan's sensibilities. I also enjoyed the other film he did, or the other Stephen King adaptation that he did, Gerald's Game. Thought was pretty good. So I would honestly be more curious about this with him attached to it. So yeah, so it's interesting. It's definitely interesting to hear his name in the mix, and hopefully he does. I like I said, I like his sensibilities as a filmmaker, and it would be interesting in relation to The Exorcist. Just it would be an interesting choice, basically. So yeah, so interesting, but you know, who knows? I mean, I don't know what the plans are. I never saw Believer, so I don't know. I just know Believer, from what I've heard, was not too good, but interesting to hear that someone like him might be taking on the reins of an Exorcist film. So we'll see how this plays out. So, all right. Let's get into a film study for a second, because this one's rather interesting, because it kind of correlates to a video that I did recently regarding the topic of sexual content, which we've discussed a few times on the channel before, about sexual content and what that means in film. Is it needed? Is it not needed? Well, apparently there was a film study that was done recently, conducted by Stephen Follows, cited by The Economist. I was getting this information off of a Hollywood Reporter. They did a film study, and they found that the amount of sexual content in film has actually dropped quite significantly in recent years, specifically 40% in reduction, whereas films with no sexual content to speak of have risen to almost 50% by 2024. And in the same breath as talking about how there's not as many sex sequences in film now, this person also states that when such content is present, it is more graphic than what was shown in the past. He was citing films such as May December, Saltburn, and Fair Play as some examples. Fair Play being the one that I've seen all the way through. May December I just could not care for, and May December I stopped watching just because of the content, what was just being fed to me up by a description. That's why I turned it off. Saltburn I just didn't care for, but this is good. I'm happy to hear that there is not as many of these sequences as I thought there were. But this also feeds into my point that this type of content, while isn't as frequent as I thought it was, is more notable due to because he said that it's more graphic nowadays than previously in previous years. That's why it's more notable, because it's due to the depictions, it's due to the descriptions of those sequences. It's to its core shock value, which is what I've always said about this content, the illustration of it. It is shock value. It is used to get responses and nothing more. It's not there to make a certain point. And even if there was a point to be made, it's like a good story doesn't need these things in here. I've always said that a good story does not need these sequences to be there. Even if the entire point of the story is intimacy, or about their physical nature, the lenses would always still be questionable at best, if you ask me. So I mean, it's good to hear that it isn't happening as much as I thought it was. But like I said, it is a lot when it does happen, if you get what I'm saying. So it's good that there isn't that much, and I'm glad that the numbers are rising as the years go on. Almost 50%. That's great. So hopefully it gets bigger, because we don't need that sort of thing in film. It's just for self-indulgence and kind of potentially gross, reasonings behind it. So we just don't need it. It's not tasteful, it's not needed, and it's not sexy. It's just questionable at best. So there you have that. So, all right, let's get into our last topic for today. We have one trailer to discuss, and of course, it's the trailer of the only big trailer that came out this week. Of course, that being Mufasa. Mufasa, the Lion King. The trailer came out, it being a prequel as well as a sequel, I've heard, to the 2019 Lion King, which was directed by Jon Favreau. This stars Aaron Pierre as Mufasa, Kelvin Harrison Jr. as Scar, as a young version of Scar, and returning to the film, cast members are Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner, Beyonce, Donald Glover, and who more than likely will be the villain of the film, Mads Mikkelsen. So, being directed by Barry Jenkins, who has given us Moonlight, which I really love, and If Beale Street Can Talk, which I have not seen, but I've heard some good things about. So, trailer came out, and either it's how early we've gotten a trailer, or my judgments of the original photorealistic film back in 2019, because people forget all the time that that's an animated film. It's not live action. Nothing about the film is live action. It's an animated film. Because I was not fond of the 2019 remake. I mean, it is by definition a remake, and I don't think that the style that was chosen, being photorealistic, lended itself for expression or for emotion. It just made it fairly distant. And it's just more or less the same here. It's very inexpressive, and it appears to be more rough in its look. Again, it might just be early footage, don't know, but it's more or less just, if you liked that 2019 remake and that animation style, just quite literally, if you like that, it's just more of that and nothing else. And as I said, I wasn't really a big fan of that original film. So it's expected. I don't know why anyone would expect anything different. I don't know why I would expect anything different from it either. It's just generally nothing notable about it. I mean, really nothing notable to talk about. I mean, except the fact that Barry Jenkins went on like Twitter or something and got upset because people were saying that it looked very soulless and it looked very, giving criticisms for what they saw. And he was like saying that no, it's how dare it's a great film or it's this and that. I mean, he's doing what he can to defend it, but um, I don't see anything notable about it, really. It's just more or less the same. Um, and like, yeah, I wish that there was a different take on the animation style. I don't mind a more realistic look, but I need to be able to tell what the characters are thinking. I have to have a more of an emotional involvement in the story through that within expressive behavior. When it's just a lion's face, a normal lion's face, I can't tell what they're thinking. I can't tell what they're wanting to do. Like there's no detail to the character when there is no expressions, It's just the detail of their of their species and not of the character. And that's the main reason why I didn't like the remake so much. And also just beat for beat, it was just exactly the same. Literally no real new writing to speak of. Just like copy and paste, add a few new lines here, done. Like it was just so like not wanting to do anything of the sort to actually make their own spin on it. It was just pretty much the same film. Um, so I know this is going to be a different story, but I just do not care, and I have doubts that many will care about this. It probably will make some money, but yeah, there's just nothing notable about it. Really, nothing notable to speak of. So yeah, so those are my thoughts this week on all these little news bits. You guys let me know your thoughts on all these news bits in the comment section below. Your thoughts on the Mufasa trailer. Did you guys like it? You guys' thoughts on Masters of the Universe. You guys think that thing's going to come out? Megaoplois, all this stuff. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.